I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
That's a bit too much.
Or is it?
Well, to be fair, I've been itching for some new Resident Evil games, but it's gonna be some time before Capcom release a new one. I've been scouring Steam to find some new games. There were some cool ones, but it didn't really scratch that itch. But Steam Fest came out recently, and lo and behold, I've found 3 games but only demos. Still, I played them and they're all pretty good. And more importantly, it scratched my itch. And I think you will too. So, without further ado, hello and kumusta? This is the Artsi and I'll tell you 3 games that I've played that is like
Resident Evil.
but with a twist. The first game I'm gonna show you is called Flesh Made Fear. This game is like Resident Evil that meets Silent Hill. If you guys are still hungry even after playing Silent Hill 2 Remake, I bet this could satisfy your hunger for it. Before you start the game, you can choose which I think up to 6 characters in the game. Well, just assuming though. But in the demo, you can choose 1 character for now, Jack. But it says you can choose also the other character, Natalie. I haven't finished the demo because of work, so don't judge me. The story starts with a mad scientist named Victor Reaper, and his goal was that he wanted to create the perfect soldier. Not like Captain America, but more like Hulk, but disgusting. He also wanted control, and wanted to experience it for himself. So he experimented it on himself. It's similar to Albert Wesker's villain goal. Anyway, as far as the gameplay goes, this game is the closest one to being a Resident Evil and Silent Hill game at the same time. More on the Resident Evil side though. You got exploration, puzzles, old school tank controls, inventory management, traditional zombies, and some questionable enemies like in Silent Hill. There's also the saving system like in the old days of Resident Evil, but instead of a typewriter and an ink ribbon, you need a paraffin wax. I don't know what that is, but it's used for writing a letter, which is the saving system for the game. Of course, if it's like the old days of Resident Evil, saving in the game is limited, so you guys should be careful when to save. Combat is good. Shooting in the game feels nice, and the sound has a nice crisp to it. But melee combat in the game was surprisingly fun, and kinda OP at the same time. It could stun lock the enemies when you're just mashing the button, but of course, it's only good when it's one enemy at a time. Damage wise, it's pretty weak though. When it comes to voice acting, I was pretty mixed about it. There were some bad ones, some okay ones, and the good ones. All in all, they put effort in this game, and I should mention this again. I only played the demo, but the demo is like 2 to 3 hours long depending if you're a completionist or not. Again, this game is called Flesh Made Fear, made by Tainted Pack, and from the looks of the demo, it looks polished enough to be released later this year. I hope. Next game on our list is Into the Dead, Our Darkest Days. That's a mouthful. It's a bit of a stretch to call this game Resident Evil-like, but it has zombies and inventory management. Kinda. This time, it's Resident Evil meets The Last of Us, and meets, if you guys know this game, The Last Stand. That's one of my childhood games right there. This game is basically a side-scrolling survival game where you must survive in your shelter, where you must explore, scavenge some items, clear the area of zombies, and most importantly, don't die. The biggest hurdle of this game is managing your survivors. At the start of the game, you can choose two characters that has their own backstory and relationship beside their character. Each of the characters have their own advantages and weaknesses, and it can make a difference if you utilize these characters properly. Don't do what I did. This game really puts your survival skills put to the test. Like in all survival games, you need to feed your survivors some food so they don't go hungry. Obviously, make them go to bed because they can get tired from doing chores or from exploring. You also need them to make them happy so they don't get depressed. Yeah, I know, right? When it comes to exploring, you need to make sure you don't make any sound because once you do, all the zombies near you will come running down to eat your tasty flesh like beef jerky. When you're in combat, you need to make sure you don't get hit too much because once you do, you'll have a lot of debuffs that's gonna affect your character. They can get injured, but think realistic. That injury won't vanish instantly when you use a med pack. No. But you need to wait for at least a day to make sure the injury or debuff to make it disappear. But that's separate for regaining your health bar. You need a different medical item for healing the character, or in this case, regaining your health bar back. A bit of a warning though. If your character dies in the game, it's permanent. I chose the married couple survivors. I went exploring, the husband died, so now the wife is widowed carrying his child, so I rage quit after this. You can craft in the workbench to create another bench, be it a medical station, cooking station, firearm station. It's up to you what you wanna do first, and every day the zombies attacks your barricaded doors, so you need to repair those barricades. And it will take half a day to finish it. This game is really fun, and it will be released second quarter of this year. Actually, that's like very soon. Isn't second quarter is like April up to June or something? I don't know. Well, anyway, this game is made by Pickpock, and you should add it to your wish list. Now, the final game on the list is a bit unique in my opinion. Imagine Resident Evil meeting Final Fantasy, and they had a baby. Literally. Like, this game is really the result of those two games meeting. House of Necrosis is like a Resident Evil labyrinth exploration game with JRPG that is closer to some Final Fantasy elements. I can't really explain much in this game, but so far out of the 3 games, this game was the game that I enjoyed the most. The start of this story is like the first Resident Evil game. A special squad sent to investigate a mansion, but they never return or lost contact, so they send in another squad, but now you're alone now because plot, and right from the get-go, you explored the mansion alone. You got a knife, handgun, some ammo, some herbs, and some magic items from Final Fantasy. You got some Resident Evil mechanics in here, but the combat is very different. As I've said, the game has RPG elements to it, and what I meant by that is the combat. You can freely move in the game, but once the enemies notice you, every time you move, they will also move at the same time. Because this is like alternating turns depending on the speed of the zombies and you. Every time you move, attack, or use an item, they will move or attack, be it 1 turn or 2 turns. There's your traditional leveling up in the game. You can't see it because it's behind my ugly face. You can also level up your weapons and armor by attacking and getting hit by the enemies. For combat, your melee weapon is your bread and butter. You also have your handgun, but don't rely on it too much, and instead treat it like you're using a magnum weapon like in the Resident Evil games. Only use it for enemies that you really don't have confidence in fighting. If you don't have any weapons on hand, you can use some magic items to weaken, escape, or by warping, or using spells to your advantage. everything you can use because, oh my god, this game is not forgiving. Every time you go through that door, just prepare for the worst because it's random generated. It can trap you, that teleports you to another location with a lot of enemies on the side. You can also be trapped depending on how you move. So be careful when moving because they can make you become a Jill sandwich. Jill. Of course, there's a story, but in order for you to continue that story, you need to find a way to defeat the boss because you can progress the story if you can't kill the boss, and this boss can one-shot you. Or maybe I was just stupid regarding to my health. By the way, if you die in the game, you lose all of your items, weapons and armors, and even your level. So, I advise you to strategize what you do, use your items effectively, and when to use it, and don't give up. If you do all of those, this game can be very rewarding and satisfying at the same time. This game was made by Warkus, and by the way, he's a solo developer. So props to this guy for making a very fun but simple game. So those are all 3 games that I've played that is like Resident Evil but that meets other games. If you guys wanna see me play these games, please go watch them on my other channel. That channel is all about gaming of course, but more VODs and edited shorts. Also, if you guys don't know, I also stream on Twitch. If you wanna see me live, I have a schedule that I update regularly. Well, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video and support these developers if you can because they are really good. Thank you and see ya on the next video. Hey, psst, did you like the video? Well, if you did, how about liking the video? On top of that, you should subscribe too. Ah, by the way, if you want more videos made by me, click here on the screen. Come on, just click it. It won't hurt ya. You won't? Okay then, fine. See you later, I guess.